Alrighty, keeping going with derivatives, we're going to talk about the derivatives of sine and cosine functions. So, the derivative of a sine function. So, the derivative of sine of x is the cosine of x. It's as simple as that. We just replace the sine of x with the cosine of x. Now, the derivative of cosine of x, unfortunately, isn't just sine of x, but it's pretty darn close. It's the negative sine of x. So, let's try this out. G of t equals 7 times, plus the sine of t. So g prime of t, we got to take these parts. You got to remember, using the sum and difference rules, we need to take the derivative of each piece. So the derivative of 0, the derivative of 7 is 0. And then the sine of t, the derivative of that is going to be the cosine of t. So really, in the end here, the g prime of t is just equal to the cosine of t. That looks like I wrote the word cost. Let me spread that out a little bit. So the cosine of t. Now, number 2, same type of deal. We got multiple pieces here. Again, using what we talked about with the sum and difference rules. We're going to take each of these separately. Let's take care of that fraction first. The f of x, I'm just going to rewrite this. 2 over the third root of x. Well, we're going to make that 2 over, remember, exponents, variables in the denominator have negative exponents. We're going to make it negative, and then since it's a radical, 1/3 power. And then we saw plus 5 times the cosine of x. Now, taking the derivative of each of these separately, we're going to do just the normal derivative rules. We take the exponent multiplied by the leading coefficient. We end up with negative 2/3 x, and then we subtract 1 from that exponent, so we got negative 4/3. Now, for the cosine of x, we got 5 times the cosine of x. We're going to leave that 5 alone, and it's going to be the derivative of cosine of x is negative sine of x. Forgot to write that we're now dealing with f prime of x. Cleaning this up a little bit more, we got f prime of x equals, we can now make it negative 2 over, it's going to have that 3 in it, and then x to the negative 4/3 power means we're going to put it in the denominator. We're going to take the third root and raise the x to the 4th, or you can raise that whole third root to the 4th power. And the other one, we're just going to make it minus 5 times the sine of x. So that's the derivative of that piece there. Number 3 here, same type of deal. We've got a radical there, so let's just rewrite that as 1/2 times x to the 1/2 power. Then we got plus still, let's just make it, we can leave it as 7 times the negative cosine of x. It's taking the derivative of this, so that was just the normal. Taking the derivative, f prime of x, we're going to do 1/2 times 1/2, so we got 1/4. Subtract 1 from the exponent, 1/2 minus 1 is negative 1/2, plus 7 times the opposite, the derivative of cosine is negative sine, so it's going to be negative sine of x. Double negative, we'll clear that up in a second. Over in this first part, we got 1/4 times the square root of x, plus 7 times the negative sine of x. In other words, 7 times the sine of x. So we'll just do 7 times the sine of x. So the same rules that we learned from the sum and difference rules still apply. Now we're also going to look at an exponential function, specifically e to an exponent. So the derivative of e to an exponent is e to the x. It seems silly, and it's actually that simple. So the first one, h of t equals 3 times e to the t. Well, h prime of t, we'll leave that 3 alone. It's going to be 3 times e to the t. It ends up being the exact same equation. Now, next one, g of x, we got g prime of x. G of x is 1/2 e to the x minus 3 times the sine of x. Well, let's just take it in pieces. 1/2 e to the x, well, e to the x derivative of that is e to the x, so we'll just have 1/2 e to the x. Minus 3 times the sine of x, well, the sine of x is the cosine of x, so it's just going to be 3 times the cosine of x. And that's it. Number 3, obviously a little more complicated because, we build and build and build. We got f prime of x equals X to the negative 2. We'll make it negative 2x, and then we'll subtract 1 from the exponent to the negative 3. Minus 2e to the x. Those are the really nice ones. Now we got f prime of x equals negative 2 over x to the third, and then still minus 2e to the x power. Couple more here. On number 4, we got g of x. Well, let's just reduce g of x. So really, g of x is e to the x, and therefore g prime of x is also e to the x. So if you can reduce it before taking the derivative, go for it. Number 5, taking the derivatives separately. So the derivative of x is just 1. 4 times e to the x. Well, derivative of e to the x is e to the x. So it ends up being 1 plus 4 times e to the x. Last one in this section. We got h of x equals 2/3 x to the 5th minus 3 times the cosine of x plus 5 e to the x. Taking it in pieces. So focusing just on this one first. We're going to have 5 times 2/3. That's going to give us 10 over 3. And then x to the 4th plus, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, minus 3 times the derivative of cosine is negative sine of x. And then finally we have plus 5e to the x. Cleaning that up just a little bit more, we got h prime of x equals 10 over 3 x to the 4th. Negative 3 times negative sine of x, that gives us plus 3 times the sine, oop, what in the world happened there, sorry. Plus 3 times the sine of x, then we have plus 5e to the x. And so that is our derivative there.